welcome to this episode of the DJ Interview with your host, Harry the Big Dog.
What's up, everyone? Harry the Big Dog here. This is the DJ Interview. It is Tuesday, 8-ish Eastern Time, 7 o'clock my time because I'm on Central Time. What's up, everyone? Tap into the comments who you are and where you are listening or watching from. We're going to get this thing started right now. We're going to bring on this guy that I met, and he is doing so much stuff. He is a DJ, he's a promoter, he's a producer. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we have DJ Frankie Paradise.
Thank you.
What is going on?
What's going on, Harry? I'm good. Thank you. Blessings always. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. So before we get started, this is the question that I always ask everybody. We can imagine what your full name is right now.
Right. Right.
And we can imagine where you got your DJ name,
right.
DJ Frankie.
My full name is Francisco, actually. My name is Francisco Pagan, and I adapted the name Frankie Paradise about pushing about 30 years ago, around the time when the Paradise Garage closed its doors.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's where you got that name from.
I did, because that was the club that it inspired me. You know, it inspired me. The Paradise Garage inspired me so much that I just wanted to keep the memory alive, because it had gave me a sense of purpose, a sense of direction spiritually, and always loving music, and have gone to a place like that at that time and been so young. It just inspired me, and it was the time. That time was so magical that you just thought it would never end. The club would always go on, and it didn't, just like everything else. So that's how I was like, I remember the last few weeks, I was like, oh my God, the garage is closing. I can't believe it. I wasn't the only one. There was a lot of people, but a
lot of grown-ups crying because they ain't got nowhere else to go.
I was devastated. I just couldn't believe it. So I just said, well, I'm going to keep this going some way, somehow, and that's how that came about. And I didn't know. At first I was using Frankie Pagan, and then I said, well, why don't you use Frankie Pagan, Frankie Paradise? And that's how that came about. No offense to, I love Larry Levan and the whole crew of it. It was just keeping the memory of it alive and keeping the classics alive, keeping the classics alive. Mm-hmm.
So let's start at the beginning of your DJ career, because from the DJing, it led into you promoting and it led into you producing. So let's start at the DJ aspect.
Yeah.
If everybody read the description, which you should have, Frankie Paradise is from the Bronx, the BX. I'm from the Bronx too. So
right. Exactly.
So how did this DJ bug hit you?
In around junior high school, back in the early 80s, started going to the bars in the village, to all the circling the bars in the village. And I used to go to, at the time, it was Better Days,
Right.
And I used to go to Better Days, and even though it was a wonderful place, and I did other little circuit bars, it wasn't until when I was in high school, and I met a friend of mine by the name of Shirley, and she had mentioned to me about, oh, you need to go to the garage, and blah, blah, blah. Better Days is cute, but you got to go to the garage. So I said, the garage, I had heard about it maybe a little before, but didn't know anything about it. And it wasn't until Halloween weekend, we had planned to go Halloween weekend 1983. And it just blew my mind. And I knew, like I stated on my bio, I knew that night, whatever I was going to experience was going to be something that I had not experienced before. I don't know. I just had that feeling, and it was. But even that night when I went and I was in awe, and the sound system and the lights, and seeing Larry for the first time. And I remember the show they had that night. They had the Jamaica Girls, and they had Side Effect. And it was just an amazing night. Not to mention it was Halloween weekend, so you had the costumes and everything else that we were all doing at the time. So it was like it was just such a impacted experience that it stayed with me. So of course I started becoming a regular. You know, I said, oh, the other bars are nice, but the Paradise Garage is different, and it was just different. It was just different. So what I did was I said, okay, took out a membership, kept going. It wasn't until 1985, from 1983 to 1985, I would go and have, of course, every Saturday I went. I went sometimes on a Friday, a few times on a Friday, but it didn't compare to Saturdays.
Right.
It didn't compare to, the energy on Saturdays was just amazing. And what I did was it was just, like I would watch the crowd, and I would look up at Larry, and I would look at the speakers, and I would look at the sound system, and I would look at the
you was catching that bug then.
And I'm like, this is remarkable, you know? And that weekend, it was one particular weekend, I remember I was out in Long Branch. I think it was the next day, that Sunday. If not that Sunday. And I was just messing around with a stereo, and I was messing around with an equalizer, and it had just hit me. Not that I had not seen one before, but it was just like, oh, this is what he does. And it just hit me right there and then. I just said, I want to DJ. I want to learn this. I want to know what this is about, because it was more about the love of the music and how it was sounding through the speakers. And I just wanted to get into that. Like, oh my God, like, you know, he's up there and music is coming out of these things, you know, and it was just like
it's like amazing. Wow.
It was amazing. Yeah, it was just amazing. I was really into it. And then from that point on, you couldn't tell me anything. I was going to every record store, from rock and soul to vinyl mania. I was buying everything. If I didn't have the money, I would hit the record behind somewhere until next week. You know, and of course it was gone because other DJs were coming in. But
yeah, we knew them tricks.
I was telling God, please save me a copy. Please save me a copy of that import or something. And after a while, when they got to know me, they would. And that was it. And then it wasn't until 1988, after I did my first party. My first party was here in the Bronx.
Right.
It was on 183rd and 3rd Avenue. So I just invited everybody. At that point, I was ready. I said, okay, you know, everybody come and hear me play. You know, I'm gonna play classes. I'm a DJ and blah blah blah. And then that led to circuit parties all around in Brooklyn, as well as the Bronx. And at one party there, I met one of the promoters from Sound Factory, Sound Factory Bar. And later he did the Warehouse in the Bronx, Charles Jackson. And he liked how I played that night. It was a birthday party. And he said, I'm going to book you to the next one. And my first party public gig was at the South Oxford Club in Brooklyn.
Wow.
And then from that point on, and I played the music so hard that night, trying to be Larry, that I blew the amp. That because it was near the end of the night. But I just wanted it loud and loud and loud, and not thinking, no, you listen, you got to equalize and balance stuff. I was just pumping this, you know, but it was the end of the night. It was okay. And then through Charles, I met James Saunders, and then I met Mike Stone.
Wait. Back up. What type of equipment did you have Because I know you didn't just buy 1200s.
I can't remember at that time because at that time, that was it. I didn't have equipment at that time. I was just spinning. And at that time, I can't remember, but it was definitely an amplifier, whatever amplifier they had at the time. And it conked out. I pumped it so hard, it conked out. And remember, at that time, we were playing with turntables, but I had techniques. Right. I had my techniques. Yeah, I still got them. There's somewhere in the closet. And through Charles Jackson, I met Mike Stone and James Saunders. And through Mike Stone was that I was able to start. He started pushing me to the bigger clubs, and one of them was Octagon, and he got me to do another Halloween event there, and I had spun there with T. Scott from Better Days, and that was good because I'm like, wow, I'm spinning with. So I was opening up for
Scott. Wow.
Yeah. And Ken Carpenter. And so I started with them. These are the cats that I started at that time. And then Mike Stone was doing parties on Broadway. It was on Broadway in Chambers or Canal. It was so long ago, 1991, 1992. So I stayed with them throughout that process. And then around 1992, 93, I started doing my own promotion on 23rd and 11th Avenue. And it was a spot called 2311. And then it was called 2311 at Kingdom Hall. Okay. The whole thing. Yeah, and the building is still there. And so I started doing a little promotion, letting people hear me and hopefully like me. And before I knew it, then I started getting calls to Philadelphia. And so I started doing the Trocadero out there, Club Envy out there. And every weekend from like 2003 to 2005, I was out there. And then coming back, I did guest spots at the Shelter. I played it a lot. So it just kept building, and I was being pulled here and there, but I enjoyed it. And I love music. I just love music. Yeah.
So prior to all of that, did you go overseas?
I did go. I went to London.
Where did you go?
I had to London. It was Heaven to Heaven, Club Heaven out there at the time. This was like 1999, but I had a fear of flying. I still do. So I didn't really want to do that because I just had a fear of flying, and that flight alone was a lot. But I did do.
Yeah, for your first flight, that's a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, but mostly in the States. A lot of stuff is in the States.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you got to go to London and play.
Yeah.
What was the crowd like there compared to in the US?
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing because at that time, Heaven, I remember, first of all, the club was packed. It was completely packed in different sections. I don't know if the club is still there, but it was nice just to see people, just to see them really like they're really into dancing, and it was so many people. Like I just kept seeing people coming in and dancing here. You go to this room and and that room, and you know what I mean. It was nice. It was nice to see that. Very nice to see that, and it just expanded me. Just expanded my mind. To see that. Yeah.
Nice. That's one of the things that I want to do when I start DJing again in 2027, 2028, whenever I finish practicing.
Right. I'm more open now to the travel, but I did have a severe fear of flying. I just did. I don't know why, because I had not traveled
prior to that
since 1978.
Ooh.
And so I just caught this thing, even when I was on the plane, I was like this, my first like, okay, you all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. I did not sleep. Going to London, I did not sleep, So even when I remember getting to the hotel and I told my friends, they were like, oh, we're going to go doing this and I said, I'm not doing anything until we go out tonight when we have to do this. I said, I am exhausted. I haven't slept for 2 days, the anxiety.
Wow. Wow. So coming up to the 2000s, where are you now in this DJ slash promoter slash producer?
Right now, okay. In 2000, okay, in 1995, just to backtrack a little bit, I started this Wednesday party, which was called Clubhouse. And the Clubhouse blew up because it was LGBT. It was an LGBT crowd on Wednesdays, but it was more catered to the ballroom kids. It started as a dance party, but it became so big where I had people come in like RuPaul and Fred Berry. They stopped in, Barbara Tucker stopped in once. Timmy stopped in once. It was really nice, just to see John Robinson from WBLS came by. So, it was, and that lasted for 10 years. So I was going back and forth wherever I was booked and coming back on a Wednesday to make sure, because the party just really grew. That party took a span for 10 years to 2006. In 2000, from 1995 to 2006, expanded at Demerara's on 28th Street, right next to the Shadow, which I also got to play at the Shadow.
Been there a couple of times.
Yeah, right.
Demerara's.
And then from the 28th Street, we went to Club Shelter, which was formerly, right before that, it was Club Speed on 39th Street. So we stayed there for a little while. I was working with Timmy and Freddie there because they were doing Shelter there. So they gave me a Wednesday night there. And then when that shut down, we moved to Harlem space. It was the Karate Institute of Harlem. And there I spent about maybe another 2 or 3 years. So the course of span was about 10 years. In that time, I was building a lot of momentum. Thank God I was. A lot of recognition. So I was getting booked here, getting booked there. The producing didn't start till later. A couple of the tracks. I'm more of a promoter, done production, but more of a promoter. And from that time, I just got to work with almost a lot of people, everyone from.
Go ahead and name drop.
Oh my goodness! I worked with Carlos Sanchez. I worked with Andre, Fred Pierce. I worked with Jihad, Omar Abdallah, Disciple. What's this? Oh my goodness, Ruben Toro. I got to work with him. So I've worked with a lot of them.
Right.
Andy Krivitz. At this, when we were doing The Shadow, we were doing parties with David McQueen and Sharon Toney from 10 Nasty. And so we were bringing in guest DJs and so I got to work with all of them, basically. Yeah. So I've worked with a lot of people. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then in 2008, 2009 was when I took a break in 2006 when we shut the clubhouse down. At that time in 2005, my mother was getting very sick. And
you took a break from DJing.
Yeah, I took a break from DJing. I was going through a lot of emotional stuff. And I just took a break for a year. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to stop for a minute. I don't know if I'm going to come back or not, but I know that I'm going to stop. And I did. And then around 2007 or 8, I just kept looking at this one picture of me DJing. And I was going out to the venues, but I wasn't enjoying myself. I just knew that I could just bring a little bit more, if I did events, and I don't know. I just, I just wasn't enjoying myself like the way I wanted to enjoy myself or dance the way I wanted. And I would go to parties, Shelter, 718 Session, wherever the party was, I'd go. But I just said, you know what, I'm gonna get back into this. And then 2008, 2009, that's how I started getting slowly back into it. Once my mother transitioned, 2006, I took a break, but around 2008, 2009, I said, let me get back into this. Yeah.
Nice. Now, the break was just from, the things that were going on. Did you ever,
it was like a year.
Did you ever in that period get tired of DJing?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I was just going through a lot of emotional baggage, and then just watching my mother get sicker and sicker. You know, when you're losing your mom, it's deep. You know, and I just needed a break. I just needed a little break, and so I took that little break and just to refresh. But then I started missing it as I was looking at pictures and stuff. I said, you know what, Frankie, you know you can't give this up. You love music, and you know, at that time, I did notice that the club scene was changing. You know, the clubs, you know, became less and less. You know, so we just started doing a lot of mobile parties. Yeah.
Well, now, right, you're in the middle of the transition from vinyl to digital in those years too.
Right.
So what was that like for you, leaving vinyl alone, and how did you adapt to the digital, or did you adapt to it really quickly?
It was easy, because to me, on the eye, I would assume that most DJs, you know, from the earlier days or maybe the 80s and 90s, we worked with turntables. When we worked with 10 turntables and then they turned into CDJs, we started with CDJs. Most of us that I know, me, and I know certain DJs still do it, they started using CDs. So when the CDs came, and you burn your CDs and your music on CDs, it felt like a little record. It just felt like a CD felt like a little record. So, you know, you pop in the CD, you go to the track, and then, you know, because you have the pitch control and the CDJs, you know, you could sort of, it made you feel like you had a turntable still. So I transferred from vinyl to CDs. And then it got a little heavy, because then you had to carry with suitcases with this, and I had like 3 or 4 of them, you know, of the CDs. And not to mention, you have to burn them. You have to, you know, once you download your tracks,
it was some more work.
Yeah, make sure the quality is clear, you know. And then most important, you got to take care of that CD, because if the CD messes up, it could scratch and it could skip on the CDJ.
Yeah.
Just like a record. And so that I started with that, and then not too big on the laptops. I don't like laptops, you know, with the music. It's okay for my iTunes and for storage of the music, but then I transferred everything to USBs, and then we started using the flash drives, you know, and that became that was wonderful, you know, because like, okay, and then that took a minute, but once you get the hang of the USBs, the flash drives, it's a wrap. It's a wrap, because then you just scroll and go to your track, or if the track comes to your mind, bye, you know, and it was good. So to me, right now, I can spin on turntables, you know, so I can go from spinning on turntables to CDs to a USB, you know, and there was a few gigs that I got recent years where they only had was a laptop. And so they sort of worked it out. I was able to put in the USB and use their console. So I did use the laptop too, but it's like, you know, like I was kind of nervous, because you got to move this here and make sure you click this and make sure you don't click that, and you don't pause the record and people are dancing. You know, so it was that sort of stuff. So I'm not big on the laptops. Not to mention, I've seen with my own eyes where the laptop freezes on you, and then, you know, it's a wrap, you know. So I'd rather do the USBs, because if one of the USBs goes out, I'll have an extra mix on one of the USBs. So I just pop the USB and pretend I'm like highs and the low, you know, but I can continue the music. So
now, what kind of? I'm assuming you're working with a controller using these USBs.
Yeah, CDJs. Yeah.
So you do have the CDJs.
I got my CDJs. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you do not need a laptop with it, because I'm assuming, you know, you don't need all the effects or everything.
No.
I'm not familiar with the CDJs.
Yeah.
And those are the pioneers.
I can connect all that to my to my mixer and work the CDJs in the laptop. But to me, I just put in my USBs, go to my record, cue the track, and how I want to bring it in or mix it in, and I'm good. I'm good. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let me show off for a hot second.
There you go. There you go. Right there.
That's the newest setup.
Mm-hmm. There
It's
you
the
go.
Denon SE 6000s.
Right.
And I still got my turntables.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They sit right next to it.
They sit right next to it. You got a nice little studio set right there.
Yeah.
And
I really like.
Yeah. Nice.
Really getting into it.
Yeah.
Getting back into it, I should say.
Into it, right?
Yeah. What's going on? We got a Twitch guy there.
Oh yeah.
Push 1G.
Okay.
So now your promotion stuff, how did that happen? How did you get into promoting parties? And I'm assuming you started with your own. Do you promote for other people too?
Yes, when I started promoting in 1993. I had a little team at that time, and whatever parties we did. Well, first of all, when I was working with Mike Stone was one of the few promoters of house and club that made it to millionaire status. That's how good he was. And many a times in his house, when we were stuffing envelopes and we were doing promotion, I would talk to him and he would show me pictures of all the stuff that happened on Studio 54. And he was with Sylvester, he was with Diana Ross. Diana Ross was on his lap, and with Michael Jackson and all these people. But the one thing that Mike Stone told me was always, the key is consistency and promotion. And don't wait for nobody to promote you. You promote yourself. Yep. And I always kept that. And in that process, I was lucky because as I started, when I went to the garage, I went with my brother. My brother recently transitions. If I can show him, this was my heart, right here. His name was Jose, and let me see if I could do it. Yeah, it's my baby right here, my brother, and he helped me out tremendously. He would just be out there promoting and pushing flyers and all sorts of stuff for me. And we would be out there the late hours in the village in Midtown, just promoting flyers wherever we go. We go to DC, we go to tracks out there, wherever we had to go, to promote. And so the consistency paid off. Now it's easy because now you got Facebook, you got Instagram, you got everything. Yeah. But at that time,
before it was hard.
People don't know. And you would send out 500, 1,000 emails and don't know who got it unless you got a return stamp, got it back. So it was, it was hard then, but you had to keep doing it, and it paid off, and my brother, Jose Pagan, he was a big part of that for me because he would just help me. And among a few other friends, and they just, they believed in me and they inspired me. They said, Frankie, it's something about you, go, keep doing it. And that's how I started pushing more towards promotion, because there was, even at that time, in the 90s, I won't mention any names, but there was a few promoters that were constantly fighting and arguing, who's going to get the crowd, who's this. And I just wanted to play, I just wanted to play. Can one of y'all book me? You're fighting with this one, you're fighting with that one, this one. So I said, you know what? I pulled away and I did my own thing. And it paid off because some of the DJs that they work with now, them DJs, they're not getting the work that I'm getting. No shade, it's just because they were depending on them. And yes, I wanted to work with them, but they were so rivaling at that time that I just said, I'm gonna do my own thing because, I want to go further and further and further. And so, this happened throughout almost the mid to late 2000s,
Okay.
And then in 2012, when my mom transitioned in 2006, like I said, after I took a hiatus, and then I came back, and then in 2009, I started working with The Shadow, and started getting guest spots again here and getting there. So people say, "Oh, you're back," and that's how I got back into it. By the time 2012 came, I was offered a gig out in Coney Island.
Okay.
And in the 90s, I used to go to Coney Island, and I used to see people.
For everybody who's listening, Coney Island's in New York, if you don't know.
Yeah, it's in New York. Yeah, Coney Island, New York, in the ball. I used to see people like, oh, there was a few DJs playing out there, and I would be like, I would like to do that, to see people dancing out here. And it manifested in 2012 and 2013. And I've been out there for like 10 years. And now in 2018, we launched our own production with some people that I knew back then. And now we call ourselves Soul Committee Alliance, And so what we do is we do events we do it in Coney Island. Sometimes we're in Harlem. We get booked for Harlem, and that's what we're working on now.
Nice. For all the future listeners, this is June of 2023, June 13th to be exact, and you just did something over the past weekend.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Now, what type of event was that? And
actually, this past weekend, we were in Coney Island. The weekend before, I believe, was the weekend when we had a double. We had like a Saturday and Sunday, and we had a white party out there. And then Sunday we had Barbara Tucker perform, and of course she gave us a great show, and people came out both nights. Yeah, they came out. They came out both days, And
she's the beautiful people lady, right?
Oh, beautiful people. Yeah, I love Barbara
beautiful.
Tucker. Yeah. And it was nice, just to see people. And there's something about Coney Island. If you ever been to Coney Island and seen,
I haven't been since last year.
Yeah, to the dance parties. It's a feeling it's an amazing feeling because you're seeing the ocean, then you're seeing people dancing, and it just feels good. You just feel like, wow, it just to see that the sun, the sky, and the music, and then you look behind and you see the rides, and it brings out like almost that kid in you, still like, oh wow, yeah, I remember the cyclone, I remember that ride, or I remember this, and it's just a nice feeling. I mean, it has helped me. It has transcended me in many levels.
Right.
And most what I got out of Coney Island, which is this is what really hit me, was that house music or good music hits anybody. It doesn't matter what culture or what race. I remember the first few months of spending in Coney Island, seeing, again, maybe I saw it before, but I paid more attention now, the African woman all dressed in, dancing to house music. And then I saw this Jewish guy over here with the hat and they're religious, the little curls and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, they like this music. Right. And so it was a good feeling to see that you could do this from your end, and touch people's souls. And these are people from different cultures and different races that you see, and they have a good time. And I've seen many people that come up to me that, again, it's not good to assume they might be all black and they're Spanish, or they all Spanish and they even if they're Spanish, I'm like, oh, so you like house music? I love house music. I don't do nothing but house music. So it's amazing that you don't know who you're touching. You just don't know who, where, but it's great. It's a great feeling. Yeah.
Now you talked about from your website. I'm getting this from. You talked about singing along to R&B and Motown and smooth jazz, disco, and all of that stuff. How did you soak all of that stuff in and then gravitate to house music?
Good question. As a kid, I used to, just like any kid who was into music, I would just listen to my mom's radio and be like, oh my God, there's there's a Motown, Gladys Knight, and that time, I go back a little bit, and then of course Lou Michael, the Jackson Fives, and I would be singing, and sometimes I acted like I was one of them, trying to sing along, and I just love music. I took music in high school, took it in junior high school and high school, and loved when the disco era came out. I remember, I wanted to hustle and I wanted to learn this, and and how beautiful it was. Music itself. When you think about you think about France Charlene and Donna Summer, those tracks, those disco tracks, and Salsa Orchestra, all those, it was just beautiful music. And I just continued. Now, once I started going to the garage, like 1980, I remember, especially in the Bronx, because you're from the Bronx, hip hop emerged. Remember?
Yeah.
It was that early Sugar Hill, Funk Flex and all that started coming out. And Funky 4 Plus One More, Curtis Blow, all that.
Curtis Blow and all
I started getting a little bit into that. I did started getting into that a little bit. And then at that same token, still going down to the village, still going to the bars, but it wasn't until I hit the garage because Larry was playing post all of the classics from the late 70s, from the whole disco era, even if it was funk or whatever, he was playing that. And I was like, oh, I remember this, I remember that, and this sounds awesome, and so I got back into my club and disco and classics. And I wasn't big into house music, believe it or not. 1984, 85, when they came out, to me, like I did in one of the other interviews, it didn't touch me. I didn't like the whole Marshall Jefferson sound that Chicago. I didn't like all that boom, boom, boom. I wanted to hear disco. I wanted to hear funk. And I started going on vacation trips to tracks in DC for the holidays. And at tracks in DC, they played gospel house.
Yeah.
And that's what got me more. Then I started saying, wow, this is a gospel track, and they put a dance beat behind it. And it was hot. And I said, but I like this record. This is a gospel song. And that's little by little, I got into gospel house, that soulful house. And I love it now because I know that disco and classics turned into house, and now we have wonderful producers and engineers out there. I follow them on TrackSource. They're wonderful, man. Yeah. So that was the process of that. That was the process of, to becoming, staying relevant with house, still love my classics, but stay relevant with house.
I'm classics all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. The house music is good. I can listen to it, but not my preference. My preference is disco.
Right. Well,
disco,
Harry,
dance.
Oh, that will always be my heart, And house. What's good about house now is that it has broken up. Like I mentioned before, it's now it's soulful house, gospel house, soul tech. So they changed it to a point now where you have tribal house, gospel house, tech house, soulful house, vocal house. And that helps because it breaks it up. So you might hear something like, oh, okay, I'm not really into house, but I like that beat.
I like that one.
I like that message. Yeah. So that's how I've gotten more into it. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I mean, I love my house, but what I do is I try to, within my sets, wherever I spin, I'll do I'll do the different genres, depending on who's there. And then in between I'll mix a classic, or two or something intro or deep, but I don't stay on the same mode. No.
So you're not just that straight house person and don't deviate.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay for the ones that do it. If you want to hear soulful house all night long, Afro house all night long, deep house all night long, that's fine. But for me, it's more I cater to my followers, not the followers. Again, my followers, and I know what each of them might want. So I break it up so that this one is not waiting for this track, and this one says, you didn't play nothing for me. You try to go back and forth. Yeah. Now, if I'm hired or booked somewhere,
and for something special,
then keep it more relevant, keep it more new, something like that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we didn't mention this the whole interview to this point, but we are celebrating Pride Month. You guys are celebrating Pride Month, and what I kind of want to dive into is, did you have any struggles being a openly gay DJ from back in the day? It was mostly male dominated. It was a few females there, but did you have any problems, any struggles with different promoters, different venues? Any?
Good question. And the answer, sincerely, I must say, is it moves more to no, I didn't.
Okay.
And reason being because in the early 90s, the late 80s, I didn't start doing my own promotions into the early 90s. And what I noticed was that the venues were more open. They were open for a LGBT crowd, a gay crowd, and through in that process, what would happen is you would also have the straight crowd coming in. So it intermingled, and some of them liked me. I never had a problem with even getting a venue, or even now. So I have so many promoters that want to work with me, gay and straight. They want to, but at this point I'm more settled into what I'm doing because I'm doing a lot. So I try to, but I've never really had that problem. And I always say, especially to the house heads, this is very important. House music was dubbed and designed through gay people, whether you believe it or not. Then through Frankie Knuckles, it started in building up in Chicago. We know that too. You understand? But it's not about if you're gay, you're straight. It was always about the spirit of the music and the love for the music. There was no need. I mean, I remember at the Paradise Garage on a Saturday night, you had, and I can testify to that, there were so many straight people that would try to come on a Saturday night, on a Saturday night to the Paradise Garage. And some guys would come up to us, man, and I say, well, you know what type of crowd it is tonight, right? They said, no, but we want to come in. They want to come in. So, and then I felt a certain way because I remember I brought a girlfriend of mine from California, and she almost couldn't get into the garage that Saturday,
Wow.
And, and I felt a certain way because they didn't want to let her in. Like, okay, you understand it's a gay Saturday, but, she's a friend of mine,
Right.
And it was that sort of, I've always shunned against that. It's about the music. It's about the music, It's about the music and the spirit of the music. Gay, straight, bi, whatever it's just about the music, the love of the music. And that's what I try to bring. I'm not, I don't disrespect nobody, never have, never will. For those who follow me and like my music, great. And if it doesn't move you, that's fine too. That's okay. But for me, it's all about the love of the music. That's what, and keeping it going. Most important, keeping it going.
Nice. And I just wondered, what was that an issue? Because I know some of the females DJs that I've talked to, they, because it's mostly male dominated, they had some issues. They wasn't taken seriously until later on, or until they proved themselves over and over again.
Yeah, and then also, well, that in a sense now has created a certain change also. And I don't know if back then it was happening behind the scenes, but now what we have is cliquish, so they might not hire you because they want more of this or they want more of that. But I don't, to me, I do my parties, and certain people that have even try to book me, depending on the crowd that I notice there, I won't take it. Because to me, I just feel like if my energy is not going to be right and I'm not fully loved, don't book me just to book me, because, I want to know who am I performing for?
Right.
And to me, that's very important now. And so, and especially now, as of January last year, when my brother transitioned, that changed everything for me. That changed how I thought, how I think, and because he was like, he was my number one fan. He was like, oh, you gotta listen to my brother. He was always like that because he knows my story. And I was supposed to do an interview with someone else that I wanted him to also speak on it, but it didn't happen. He transitioned right before that. But that changed everything for me, because I always strive, because he had worked so much to promote me, that I want him to always be proud of me. So I was doing so much, but now I take a back seat. I don't, I'm not so eager to, I'm not trying to do this and I'm trying to do that, because number one, I made it in New York. I made it. I didn't even have to go overseas. Many DJs did, and that's okay. And there's no problem with that. And it's nice to experience it. I traveled the world, and I got to do it in Europe for once. I said, but my thing is, I did it in New York, so that to me, that's to me, that's what matters to me. I know what I've done in New York. I know the time when New York was on fire, when the clubs were on fire. And I'm talking about
back in the day, every corner downtown,
gay clubs, not only the gays, the straight people too. They carried on, it was because it was fire at that time, at that time. So, to see how everything has changed, and to see how New York City is now, and how, clubs are very far between, and this, it's just not, the scene is not the same. I've been there, done that, so I'm good. I just continue doing what I'm doing as long as I can do it. And it's if I can still do it, and do a party here and do a party there, and gather people and make them feel good, and bless them with that, that's it for me.
We talked about that the other night, that feel good music.
Exactly.
Man. So do you do this for a living, or do you have another job to go to?
No, I work for the health agency. I've always had a job. Always.
Okay.
Always had a job. I so I do a part-time job, but I love my music, so it balances out, my schedule. Excuse me.
Nice. Because I know there's some people that only do it as a hobby, but they get busy. You have some people that do this full time. This is all they do. So
right,
they
and
gotta
that's fine for
keep
the ones that
hustling.
have done it. Yeah, the ones that have done it and they were able to live from it. But to me, I just didn't trust it for some reason. Not that I didn't trust me, because I
Right.
know, I know music. I know, at least I know.
Right.
I think I'm a good DJ. So I people follow me, they dance. But I just didn't want to be like at the mercy of that,
Yeah.
in the future. So it's not like I cannot do it. I could still do it, and I could have done it, but I choose both. I choose both levels, Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what do you have coming up in the future? First of all, what's going on with Frankie now, DJ Frankie Paradise? What's going on with your promotions, and what's happening for the future?
For the future, actually, the future, I don't even know what's going to happen in the future. The way New York City is going. So, but I'll tell you what's happening now. So I do First Fridays at a lounge out in Brooklyn. First Fridays, and it's at 856 Atlantic. If anybody's interested, it's our First Fridays. It's a small little lounge. It has a backyard, so we do our events there. Now in the summertime, I'm going to be just doing the parks out here. It could be sometimes we're doing Fulton Park, Coney Island. Sometimes I'm in Harlem working with this other production called Love on the Block. So I'm doing that. And, right now, right now, the way New York City is going, I'm just going with the flow of stuff, because,
Right.
Right now it's gotten so stricter, like even in Coney Island, your permit time has been decreased. So we used to be out there, let's say from like 1 to 8 or 9. Now it's only till 6.
Wow.
So a lot of parks now, we're having problems with that, Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
To take away, I remember back in the day, you probably too, that you went out to New York and you left one of the clubs at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to a breakfast spot.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
end up at
No,
home
that's
about 10, 11 a.m. in the morning.
No, that's going. And now it's to the point where even the crowds are not staying late anymore. Unless it's maybe now where the clubs are in Williamsburg, in that area,
Mm-hmm.
This in Manhattan, everything is shut down by 1 or 2. Everything is
Wow.
shut down. Everything is shut down.
Way
Even for the
different.
younger. I was doing a spot in Harlem called the Row House, and which I'm gonna have a party there August 12th. I'm gonna start doing a once a month party there also. And the lower levels where we have our events, the upstairs is a commercial, top 40, Millennium. They were shut down before we shut the party, and it was midnight.
Wow.
And I said, "Oh my goodness!"
They're gonna have to change their name.
Yeah, our generation, we used to go from club to club and stay out to the wee
The city
hours.
that never sleeps. They're gonna have to
The
change
city
that.
sleeps,
The city that goes to
I
bed a
remember
little
coming out-
early now.
I tell you, Harry, I remember coming out the garage sometimes, me and my brother and some friends, we would go and eat because we were starving. And then we go to Washington Square Park, and they were playing the drummers and sorts of stuff. And sometimes after that, we either went home or we went out again to another bar or something. Those were the days. I don't know. Our generation was built that way where we could just go, but now.
Even though we said we wasn't going to do that tonight, and then end up doing the same exact thing.
Yeah. But this new generation now, they I don't know if it's the music when they listen, maybe their music or whatever. It's not, it doesn't have the same energy that we have.
Right.
But it's not, it's just everything has changed. Everything has changed. Everything has changed. And then also, the reason why I love what I do and I continue doing it is to try to recruit new house heads, to keep our music alive. Because our generation, we're all pushing 50s and 60s. So you want, you know what I mean? Someone's got to keep it going.
What do you think is going to happen after, like you said, our generation that actually listen to this music and go out and support it when they get a little bit older and they're not able to support anymore, or the DJs are just not able to do it anymore? What do you think is going to happen?
I think that what I'm seeing now, especially in Coney Island or in some of these events, there are younger people that are coming and they're liking it because they're getting the exposure. I know 2018, 2019, I was in Coney Island. At the end of the night, it was these youth to a young boy and a young girl. They I thought they were teenagers, but they were young adults, but they looked that young. And they wanted to take a picture with me at the end of the night. And I said, sure, no problem. And I asked them, I said, how old are you? How old, and then they said, the girl must have said she was 21.
Mm-hmm.
Boy was 23. I don't know if they were boyfriend or brothers or sisters. They asked me my age. I said, you don't. I said, never mind.
With an E on it.
Never mind. So, but I said, y'all like this music? They said, we never heard it. They said, we never heard it.
Wow.
So, it was nice to see them. They said, no, the music is beautiful. And they said, but we never heard it. So I'm assuming, what I'm thinking and hoping is that the same way we got dancers that are coming in and listening, you got that one young kid out there who says, I'm gonna be a DJ and I'm gonna be a house, I'm gonna be a house music DJ,
Right.
So that's what I'm hoping that it goes. Now there's a few DJs, young DJs out in New Jersey also. And these two, one is called DJ Ami and the other one is Justice. And they're young kids, but they're good house heads, DJs, So they're hopefully people like that will keep it going. But I think just like any other genre of music, it'll survive in its own way. It might not be as big.
Like freestyle music. They shrunk down, like, but they still have a core of people.
They still got a core of people, and they're gonna come out if you throw freestyle music. They're gonna come, So if you throw a classic party or a disco party, they come out. I have one at Taj. I work with this promoter, and we have a disco party fundraiser at Taj, and I tell you, they come out. They come out, Larry. They come out and they're dancing. And they're still dancing. They're in their 60s. Some might be pushing 70. But and I love it because I can go out with my classics,
Yeah.
And
they know every song.
Yeah, and they know every song. Yeah, you better know what you're doing because they know every song, And I've been doing that for 9 years. So it'll survive. It'll survive even if it becomes archives, one way or another. It'll survive. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Shout out to DJ Dan for making this happen. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Oh my goodness, yes. I want to give out a shout out first of all, I want to give a shout out to God always, because he's the one that makes everything happen. Thank you, God. And then my supportive family, so committee. Irvin, Boyciel, Mr. Michael, Jeffrey Smith. Shout out to Old Weekend with Coney Island Dancers because he started me out there. Wayne Dixon, my partner. And of course, a big heavily shout out to my brother Jose Pagan, aka Tony. Always with me in my heart. And I just want to also give a shout out to all my supporters, followers throughout the years. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Thank you for just even coming out some days. You come out, I see when the weather is bad. At Keenan Lounge, y'all come through, and I appreciate that. And you come from different boroughs, So I just want to say, I don't take you for granted. I don't take anything for granted. And, just thank you. Thank you for the love, and if my music transcends you and helps you, the honor is mine. It's always mine. And Thank you, Harry. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. What do you think about a show? I'm self-plugging right now. What do you think about a show like this that interviews DJs?
I think it's nice. I think it's great. You know, you allow us to talk and tell our story, and it's great. You know, the fact that you acknowledge us, and you know, you're a DJ yourself. You know, that's wonderful. You know, so thank you. Yes,
I'm kind of a DJ.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm working my way back. Y'all.
I think everyone is a DJ. Everyone is a DJ.
Let me show off again.
Not in the spiritual way, you know. You got the spiritual everyone's, and then you got the physical ones like us, you know. You know, it's just that we do it physically, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on and having the opportunity to tell your story.
Thank you for allowing me.
Dope story. You know, you've been places, you're still playing at your old age.
Amen.
But thank you for showing up. I'm gonna leave you on, and we're gonna close this thing out. This is Harry the Big Dog, and my special guest was DJ Frankie Paradise.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all listeners. Thank you.
Hold on. We got my man Jeff tapping in from the Bay Area. What's up, Jeff? This is Harry the Big Dog. This is the DJ interview, and we are gone.